Sometimes I wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see troubles all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. Very cheesy, isn't it? The Cheers song was weird, you know? Go where everyone knows your name. You want to go where you can see troubles are all the same. You want to be where everyone knows your name. And I don't want to go where everyone has the same troubles as me. It's kind of boring. So I'm going to sit down here because I have my Bible with me. This whole place is kind of neat. But, let's see here. Kind of wanted to chat about meekness. And but just a couple observations because I'd be kind of I haven't done this for a couple weeks. Um, there's a perception of age that we should have, and that it's kind of relative. But anyway, well, no, it's not so much a lesson about it or something like that. But it's weird. You meet a couple. This is nothing fancy. I met this woman last week, and not or over a week ago, but it's just an acquaintance or something like in this place. Found out the same high school class. I mean, I already kind of overheard stuff that she's married, has a family, and all that stuff. So it's not like that. But you perceive how this is going to be anticlimax here. She looked older than me. It's like women age differently than men, and many times not so gracefully. People talk about aging like a fine wine or aging gracefully, and that's kind of silly talk. Some women, hormones just change, and thankfully, it seems like in some ways the only thing that looks real old about me is my beard. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why I don't want to like date a woman who is around my age. It depends. It depends. It does depend. I wish I could take off the stuff on my screen. Anyway, um, Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." This is from Matthew 5, verse 5. And a lot of people could just take that in a superficial, or the wrong way, I should say, and say gentle. But it's different. I'm shivering a little bit. I want to stay sharp out here in the cold. Um, Meekness. It's said it's like power under control, and there's something to be said about that. Jesus had perfect self-control. He didn't exert himself unnecessarily. He didn't display power in such a way that was to merely serve some kind of selfish motive. He certainly did display power many, many times, but it was different. Sorry, I'm shaking. It was cold out. I also wanted to show a shirt, werewolf. The werewolf. It's make believe, but and there's different versions. But there's some. It's said there's some werewolves who can change. A man can change into that at will. And go back to a man. You know, there's, and it's a strange metaphor, but you know, true meekness is not displaying the power unnecessarily, but at the right time. And I hope I'm not covering this up. I'm gonna take off some of this stuff here. Man, I'm shivering. Um, so I don't want to be carried away and gratuitous um, with my power. And there's something else to be. I don't want to be self-serving with my power. And really, as I'll get to in a moment here, that the real power that should exert, or anything like that, should always be in the context of faith, of something that, in the general sense, is that orientation toward God, and in all of our thinking and actions. From 2 Corinthians 12, this is the Apostle Paul. He wrote, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, talking about the Word of God given to him. For this reason, to keep me from exalting myself, there was given me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me, to keep me from exalting myself. Concerning this, I implored the Lord 3 times that it might leave me, and he had said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather boast in my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore, I am well content with weaknesses, with insults, with distresses, with persecutions, with difficulties, for Christ's sake. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. And, it begins with him having the right understanding his own position, who he really is, and receiving something directly from God. One can be very puffed up in himself, like, wow, look at me, aren't I special? But God brought in a special kind of humbling method to keep him in check and to not let him get carried away with himself. And Paul was overcome by that. He didn't like that method. And he prayed. He prayed that it would leave, but God had a better plan. In his providence, he allows even this messenger of Satan, this some kind of pain, physical problem, something like that, to really get at him, to keep him in check, to keep him humble, and not confuse um, the strength, the things, the blessings that God gives for something to give him sway to self-exalting behavior. Because it wasn't about him, it's about the glory of God. And this, in part, informs our meekness. And so, in light of just needing to be humble before God, needing self-control, we can, even in the face of what I just read at the end of that passage, the weaknesses and physical things, those physical weaknesses, the insults from others, events in life that really suck, really distressful times, even persecutions from, like, you claim to be, you want to live faithfully, you want to maybe point someone to God, and it's responded to with disdain. In any difficulty in life, for the sake of Christ, we can be content, because it's the power of God that we need. We don't need some detached, godless exertion of power, seemingly like wanting to be something on your own, rather than being one who walks with God. When we want to exert our own power apart from God, then we quarrel against the imperative to be meek. So anyway, there's a lot to say about that. Be meek, don't be weak. And when he says, when Christ said, "My power is made perfect in weakness," I have to read this again. Yeah, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness. And it's not your power. It's not like human power. Want that you exert in order to sin, for instance, to pursue that relationship purely for sexual pleasure or something like that. Either to pursue something purely for out of your desire to be wealthy, and just that's what it's all about. Your life is just about being rich. I want to stay on track. I don't want to be a train wreck here. I can be a train wreck. I can give into tangents and then lose where I was. But it's something to think about. There's so much one can say, and it's not like I spent hours and hours this morning doing this. But a couple other things about we can have meekness when it comes to online communication, and part of that is not getting carried away with your own power, and you think of this power of your mind that you have, being a commentator and getting your 2 cents in, and giving place to insult, giving place to even becoming a persecutor of others based on, in some cases, envy. If you think about it, why do we attack people online? But it could be out of just this desire to have what you think they're abusing, and that's not righteous. It's not faithful. So again, about commentators, man, I hate the settings on it. I don't want to see like who's online right now. I don't want to see the stuff which is just blank. I don't want to even look at it right now. These things are distracting. But you think about it, what motivates you to comment and to criticize and to complain about what someone's doing online? A lot of it is because you have envy and you're not engaging in what they're attempting to do. So think about that. What motivates you to comment and motivates you to get your 2 cents in? I've done that in the past. Sorry, I'm shaking, Jay. That goes back to what I've mentioned about calling. It's like, are you doing what you're called to do? Are you doing what the ultimate thing you need to be doing with your life? Are you about that? And of course you have the periphery. Of course you have some things. I have the day job that it's necessary for me, but it's not the ultimate thing for me. Um, I want the real greater thing I'm called to be a bigger part of my life. And anyway, if I give place to those who are more successful in the world, and want to criticize and do this and that and engage in a critical way, I have to do a heart check, so to speak. I have to check where I'm at. Am I thinking properly? That's a misuse of power, and that's not meekness. I'm really shaking. Wow. So anyway, Yeah, and that Cheers song, by the way, it's like tied to tribalism. I got to go back soon. We don't want to be tribalists. We don't want to be, because if we're not careful, we can also be kind of leeching off people when we need to trust God. I don't want to leech off people. Back regarding the Cheers song thing. Remember that show Cheers? It was in the '80s, and it was about a bunch of drinkers in a bar connecting with themselves in a community. Anyway, that's it's not a good environment. Um, so another thing, real quick, and I'm gonna do a separate thing about this too. But to be a fan of nothing, uh, to be a fan is to be a fanatic, technically. And some people say, "Oh, it's just semantics. That's not what people mean." But some people do mean that. Don't be a fan of anything, and and your life will be more calibrated, so to speak. You're not going to be turned into a sycophant where you're saying all these giving these, you know, silly praises and whatnot. This attention to compliment, this gratuitous, complementarian sort of behavior with personalities, people, um, and things. You can let something become. It's like a form of. It's like an aspect of idolatry to be a fanatic. And people say, we call some Christians religious fanatics. That's just a worldly term. A real believer is meek. You know, I should say, he has more. He that's the more natural disposition of a believer is to be meek, not a fanatic. So have that godly self-control. Don't fanaticize over things, wanting to be successful and this or that. And if you find yourself getting carried away, you have to examine yourself and consider again: are you really about what you're called to do? Anyway, much else I can talk about. Adios, amigos.